What if I told you that the way that you see yourself, your self-concept, is actually a core reason of why you're feeling anxious or depressed? And that same self-concept can be rewired to heal and grow. Anxiety, depression, lack of motivation, bad habits, feeling stuck, those aren't just personality traits or signs that something is permanently wrong with you. And they're not your faults, but they are your responsibility. These patterns, the ones that feel deeply wired into who you are, aren't actually about who you are at all, but about how your self-concept was shaped. We don't talk about this enough. We talk about symptoms, we talk about coping, but no one tells you underneath it all, your nervous system is playing out a story that it was told about who you are, what you deserve, and what you think is possible for you. Therapy can help you manage, medication can offer relief, but if you never shift the core story that you are operating from, you'll keep looping in survival mode even when you're trying to heal. This isn't about being delusional or pretending that you're fine. This is about understanding the neuroscience of your self-concept and how that understanding can finally give you your power back. Let's talk about the wiring underneath your symptoms and how to finally start changing the story. Your self-concept is your brain's internal story of who you are, but it's not a single sentence, it's a network, web of emotions, thoughts, memories, and expectations. This is where the default mode network, or DMN, comes in. It's the part of your brain that activates when you're thinking about yourself, your past, your future, your relationships. Basically, when your mind is making meaning, especially about you. In people with a negative self-concept, the DMN becomes overactive and you get stuck in a loop. I'm a failure. I always mess things up. No one really cares about me. These aren't facts, they're familiar predictions. Because your brain runs on predictive coding. It builds internal models based off your past and then projects those models into your present. So if your environment taught you that you weren't safe, loved, or worthy, your brain built a model to match, and it doesn't easily let go even when reality changes, because safety for your brain is predictability. Your identity isn't something that you choose once, it's something that your brain builds through repeated emotional experiences. You learn who you are through the way others treat you, especially your caregivers and environment. Were you celebrated for being curious or shamed for having needs? Did your emotions feel safe or too much? These patterns don't just shape how you behave, they shape who you think you are. So, if you're struggling with personal growth, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because the identity that your brain built is still active. And personal growth that contradicts that identity can feel threatening. Wanting to grow is easy. Allowing yourself to become someone new, someone your nervous system wasn't wired for, that's where resistance lives. And that resistance makes sense, because the same neural systems that create your identity, the ones you've already heard me talk about, like predictive coding and default mode network, are wired to protect what's familiar. Your brain isn't just updating facts, it's updating who you are. And that requires safety, repetition, and emotional weight. That's why real growth often feels like grief, like fear, or like letting go of a version of you that once kept you safe. When your self-concept is built on fear, unworthiness, and unpredictability, your brain learns that authenticity is a risk. Neurologically, this might show up as an overactive amygdala.
The amygdala is an almond-shaped brain structure in the temporal lobe. It deals with emotions, especially fear, and is vital for memory and motivation as part of the limbic system.
A disconnected prefrontal cortex.
The PFC is a front part of the brain responsible for thinking, decision-making, and emotions. It helps us remember things, focus, and control impulses. When we learn new things, the PFC changes its connections between brain cells, allowing us to adapt and respond better to different situations.
A dysregulated autonomic nervous system, cycling between fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
ANS is a critical component of the peripheral nervous system responsible for regulating involuntary physiological processes. These processes include heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, digestion, and sexual arousal, among others. The ANS operates largely below the level of consciousness and is divided into two main branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which prepares the body for fight or flight responses during stressful situations, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes rest and digest activities that occur when the body is at rest. Together, these systems ensure that the body maintains homeostasis, adapting to both internal and external changes efficiently.
This is why healing doesn't always feel good at first. Your brain has to unlearn what it thought to keep you safe. Again, your body isn't the enemy, it's the messenger. Your ability to adapt to change, to bounce back from life stress, is directly tied to your self-concept. If you believe you're capable, supported, and resourceful, your brain approaches change with curiosity. If you believe you're helpless, alone, or unworthy, change feels like a threat. This is not just mindset, it's neurobiology. Your brain constantly predicts whether it's safe or in danger, based on your identity and past experiences. A flexible self-concept expands your predictions. It says, I can handle this, I can grow, and your nervous system follows that lead. The more regulated your nervous system is, the more adaptable your self-concept becomes, the more resilient you become to life. Resilience isn't about being tough or unaffected. It's about having a nervous system that can shift states without getting stuck. What scientists call autonomic flexibility. It's the ability to move from stress back to safety, from contraction into expansion. Resilience is nervous system flexibility. Resilience is self-concept fluidity. It's knowing that I can be different tomorrow than I was today, and it's safe. When your brain stops predicting that effort leads to connection or joy, it shuts down. This is the root of depression, not weakness, not apathy, but a learned nervous system reaction called freeze.
Freeze response is a survival mechanism triggered by the autonomic nervous system, similar to fight or flight, where the body shuts down or freezes rather than reacting. You might feel this physically by immobility, muscle tension, shallow breathing, cold or numbness, change in heart rate. Feel this emotionally by numbness, detachment, feeling stuck or helpless, loss of control, and feeling this cognitively by difficulty concentrating, memory problems, disorientation, and more.
In this state, your brain numbs motivation to protect you from pain. Your self-concept becomes fused with hopelessness. What's the point? It's not laziness, it's biological shutdown, and it's reversible, but it requires gentle, body first healing. Because depression just isn't in your thoughts, it's in your nervous system predictions. Your self-concept doesn't just stop at your thoughts, it affects your body. If your internal story is, I'm broken, your nervous system prepares for stress even when there is none. Cortisol rises, inflammation increases, digestion slows, sleep worsens, and if your body was a source of shame or criticism growing up, your brain may have learned to disconnect from it. This shows up as eating disorders, body dysmorphia, chronic fatigue or pain, inability to trust hunger or rest signals. Shifting body image isn't just about self-love. It's about healing the narrative that your body is the enemy and rewiring your relationship with it through safety and compassion. What rewires your self-concept isn't information, it's experience. Specifically, disconfirming experiences. Moments that contradict your old beliefs in a way that feels safe enough to let in. If your belief is, I'm a burden, a moment of being loved without earning it rewires that. If your belief is, I always fail, a moment of small supported success does the same. But this really only works when your nervous system is regulated, the experience is repeated, and your brain is safe enough to notice it. This is neuroplasticity in action. You can't think your way into change, you have to experience it. Your self-concept even shapes how you see success. If you were taught that rest is lazy, that money is scarce, or that you're not the type to be successful, you'll subconsciously sabotage growth to stay loyal to your old identity. This is not a character flaw. It's your brain's predictive coding at work. If your nervous system learned that success leads to pressure or that stability always precedes collapse, it will code safety in staying small. Career burnout, it's often tied to a self-concept that says you have to overperform to earn worth, reinforced by reward prediction errors, where the brain expects stress as the cost of success. Money dysregulation, often rooted in a nervous system wired for scarcity, where abundance feels unfamiliar and is flagged as a prediction violation, something to avoid. So the brain and body respond by unconsciously recreating the conditions they expect, even if they're painful. To change your external results, you have to change your internal blueprint. The identity, the nervous system, and the belief networks underneath them. Your habits are a reflection of your self-concept. If you believe, I'm inconsistent, your brain resists routines, not because you can't commit, but because it doesn't match the internal model. That's your default mode network at work again, constantly filtering your decisions through, who am I? If your nervous system equates visibility with danger, even showing up can trigger protective shutdown, often through the dorsal vagal response. This is why goal setting often fails, not because your goals are too big, but because your predictive brain can't reconcile them with the identity it already believes. Motivation isn't just about willpower, it's about reducing prediction errors between who you were and who you're trying to become. Real change happens when you ask, what kind of person am I becoming? And how can my nervous system learn that it's safe to be them? That's when motivation stops becoming a fight and starts becoming a flow. Self-concept defines what kind of love you think you deserve. If you grew up with neglect, chaos, or conditional love, your brain may have internalized that to I have to earn love, or love means losing myself. That forms the basics of insecure attachment, which is not just emotional, it's neurological. Early relational experiences shape your attachment system through repeated co-regulation or lack of it. If your caregivers weren't safe or attuned, your brain wires to expect that in future relationships. The result? Your nervous system may interpret healthy love as unfamiliar and familiar chaos as home. That's why boundaries can feel threatening. They disrupt the old attachment patterns your brain thinks it needs to survive. You might overgive and feel resentful, chase unavailable people, avoid vulnerability altogether. Rewriting your self-concept and gradually building secure internal attachment retrains your nervous system to expect safety in connection. That's what creates healthy boundaries. Not walls, not people-pleasing, but clarity and connection rooted in worth. Even when you want to change, it might feel wrong. That's because, again, your brain is wired to feel familiar. Saying, I'm worthy, doesn't feel true, not because it's false, but because your nervous system is not used to it. Your brain says, that's unfamiliar, that's unsafe, let's shut it down. And that's not failure, that's your nervous system trying to do its job, which means it's your job to show it slowly, consistently, compassionately that it's safe to believe in something new. I've had so many conversations how someone was venting about how they feel stuck, and maybe I've offered a perspective or a tool that helped me, and their response is basically, good for you, that's not gonna work for me. And I get it. I get that reaction. The defensiveness, the shutdown, the eye roll. It's not a lack of intelligence or desire. That's a nervous system protecting its current identity. It's a sign that hope feels dangerous, that disappointment is too familiar, that believing is a bigger emotional risk than staying stuck. It's not resistance because they're doing something wrong. It's resistance because their brain and body learned not to trust change. And if that's you, if you've ever felt annoyed by the idea of healing or disconnected from the hope that other people seem to have, I want to tell you this. That is a trauma response, not a personality trait. You're adapting, and there's nothing wrong with you for needing more time to feel safe enough to hope again. You are not your symptoms. You are not your old story. You are a nervous system trying to stay safe. And now you get to teach it something new. In the next video, we're going to dive into that. Practical, science-based ways to shift your self-concept in real life with nervous system safety, identity healing, and grounded action. You're not broken. You are becoming, because this isn't about fixing you, it's about freeing you from the patterns that never belonged to you in the first place. I am so proud of you for being here. Your brain is listening and it's ready to change. Until next time, much love, and you got this.